December 16th, 2021, gave us the film event, and the likes of which we will never forget.
For a night of feasting and sport, the likes of which you will never forget.
Possibly the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time! What up, party peoples? Bobo here with Brassero Brothers. Thanks so much for coming back for some more popcorn. Woo! I just saw Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh man, 100% A+. I'll just tell you right off the bat, I loved it. So you ain't gonna hear nothing negative about this movie in this review whatsoever. I was 1000% satisfied. Look, I'm not kidding when I say this could be the best Spider-Man movie ever made. I just saw with my buddy Andrew and Clinton. Andrew was saying that it was right off. He was just like, oh, hands down, best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. Best thing that Sony's ever done. And at first I was just like, look, it's too soon for me to say that. I just saw the movie, but as I was driving home, I just started thinking about it, and look, it was phenomenal. It checked all the boxes, everything you wanted from a Spider-Man movie. All the dilemma, all the situations and turmoil that just Spider-Man gets himself into. And one of the things about this movie is that he causes a lot of the problems himself. But that was one of the favorite things I always loved about the comics, is some of the situations that Spider-Man got himself into that he had to get himself out of. And it picks up right where Far From Home left off too. So it doesn't like take place after a bunch of other films, kind of like, you know, some of the Marvel films, a few take place and then this one picks up, even though it's like a part 3, 2 other, you know what I'm saying? This one literally picks up from the moment Far From Home ends. Like when they're swinging around and they see the breaking news on the big screen in Times Square, J. Jonah Jameson, that's right where this picks up. And look, I'm not going to spoil anything right now. I might give you some spoilers at the end of this review, but I'll let you know very clearly that there's about to be some spoilers. But I have to say, Jon Watts nailed it with this film. He's the director that did the last two, and he's also doing the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, but I truly feel like he nailed it. Like the first movie, he was playing with Spider-Man a little bit. The second movie, he was really getting the character. In this movie, he just gave me everything I wanted from a Spider-Man film. Because one of the things that were lacking from the first two MCU Spider-Man solo films, because yeah, he's been in other side films, you know, like Civil War, Endgame, Infinity War, all that stuff. But the other two Spider-Man movies, Homecoming and Far From Home, while I love them, one of the main things that was lacking from both of those films, if you ask me, was the whole like with great power comes great responsibility thing. There wasn't that personal struggle along with the villains he was fighting. It was sort of just more about the villains in those movies. There was a little bit of the personal struggle there, don't get me wrong, it was kind of there, but in this movie it's really there. And that was part of the stuff I always loved about Spider-Man in the comics, is him having to really deal with all these things that mean something to him as a person, disregarding Spider-Man totally, just as Peter, all the things you go through as a person and a teenager, and they really highlight that in this movie, and I just loved that about this film. On top of the fact that it's just an ensemble cast. I mean, it's almost just as good as Endgame in the sense of all these people that are showing up that are really famous. Maybe not quite as famous as the people and as big as the group in Endgame and Infinity War, but it's still a big group, and they're reoccurring characters that were in past franchises. Not MCU franchises. That was what was really awesome. So not only did this movie break ground in that sense, but it just made a great film altogether for Spider-Man in general. I think it was Jon Watts' best film so far as Spider-Man's character. In fact, I don't really know any other Jon Watts films. So without even including Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, all that stuff, not even including that in the conversation, this was my favorite Spider-Man film simply because of the way they handled the Spider-Man character and Peter Parker itself. But look, it's hard to talk about this movie without spoilers, because that's half of what was really so good about it, is all the things that just started coming to light and all the things that happened. It feels like a part 3. It's wrapping a lot of things up in this Spider-Man trilogy, you know what I'm saying? Because Sony does want to take Spider-Man back from Marvel for a few movies at least. I think that they're going to want to play ball again in the future at some point, but I do know that after this movie, they want to take Spider-Man and do their thing in their own universe for a little while with Morbius and Venom and all that stuff. Hell, I think there's a Craven movie already in the works right now with Aaron Taylor Johnson. And remember, all those villains are back in this movie because Doctor Strange does that spell thing. You know what happens, you've seen it in the trailer. Spider-Man wants to get Doctor Strange to just change things back to normal where nobody knows he's Spider-Man. But they do a really good job of making you understand why it makes sense for Spider-Man to do this, and the way he explains it to Doctor Strange makes sense too. So you really believe why he would like, all right, let's try to do this for you, Peter, poor kid. But the plot is solid. I'm not even going to really get into the plot really because I can't without giving any spoilers. but all the actors are great in it. I mean, Jamie Foxx is great, Willem Dafoe's great, Alfred Molina's great. While they're the same characters you're very familiar with, you get to see them in a different light, kind of. All the fight scenes are great. I mean, when Doc Ock and Spider-Man first start fighting, when you see that in the trailer, they're on the bridge and stuff, it is awesome. Like, you remember when you first saw it happen in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 back in the day when he's fighting Doc Ock? Just remember, like, same way in this, just times 10. It is awesome. All the fight scenes are awesome. The fight scenes with him and Doctor Strange, all the fighting outside, everything you see in the trailer, those fight scenes are so amped up in this movie. It didn't give anything away in the trailer whatsoever, which I love. They even do a good job with like the comedic characters like J.B. Smoove coming back and stuff like that, Hannibal Buress. All that's really funny and they address it really well. It makes sense what they're doing in the movie and why they're there for the time they're in it. Just a lot of really good connective tissue. Happy Hogan being in it again and playing a major part of it. Marissa Tomei is Aunt May. It does a really good job of giving you that fun Spider-Man feel, having a good time with the characters, but also feeling for the characters, understanding what they're still going through after the snap and all that stuff. Like I said, it just checks all the boxes. Let me talk about the suits real quick. All the suits that you see in the trailer, at first you're just like, oh, here we go, another reason to sell toys. And yeah, I'm sure while there is that a little there, they actually make sense. What you see is the suits. And one of the suits you see actually isn't what you think it is. Once you see what they're doing with the suits in the movie, all makes sense, and it all needed to be the way it was. There's also a lot of Easter eggs as far as things that they did in the Spider-Man Sony game on the PlayStation that they kind of put in here, they adapt in their own way. So for super nerds out there like me, there's also a lot of Easter eggs in there for you to enjoy too. Look, if you love the MCU and you love major event films of the MCU as well, like, you're gonna love this. If you like the last two Spider-Man movies, you're gonna love this. They knocked it out of the park in my opinion. It has everything. It's got the love story with him and MJ, it's got the comedy with him and all the friends, it's obviously got the action, but the plot is awesome. It gets really emotional and you're attached to all the characters. A+. Go see this movie. Fantastic. I'm gonna go see it multiple times, no question. Now, here we go. Spoiler alert. If you don't want to know any spoilers, stop watching, because I'm about to talk about spoilers. Spoilers! Alright, so everybody's gonna be satisfied. Everything you wanted to come true in this movie came true. Everybody you wanted to be in it, for the most part, was in it. That's right, all three of the Spider-Men are in it. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, together. And they're as Spider-Man. It's not just some sort of cameo, it's not nothing like that. They're significant parts of the film. They're in it. They're in the movie. It's awesome. Really well done. And those are the moments where it gets really emotional. Those are the moments where it really starts tying you in and really just reeling you in to where you're just like, oh my God. And I just can't describe it, and I'm not going to give any way more. Just when you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll find yourself really feeling cozy and a lot of warmth in these scenes once all three of them get into the film. And on top of that, Matt Murdock shows up in it. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! But once all three of the Spider-Man get on screen, there's so many phenomenal moments, not only visually, the whole movie is stunning visually, but them swinging across the screen, man, when you see all them swinging together, phenomenal! I had so much fun with this movie. I mean, everybody was clapping when they came on the screen in the theaters. Everybody was whistling and cheering. It was great. It felt like I was going to Endgame again. You know what I'm saying? That theater experience, that theater love. And they definitely wrap up the trilogy in this for sure. They don't get rid of Spider-Man by any means. They just wrap up his stint in the MCU. You can tell when you watch this movie. That's all I'm going to say. But when you see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's like, oh man, he's actually leaving the MCU after this. For a little while, I think. I think he's leaving on good terms. I think he's going to play in the Sony world for a little while, have their own little stuff going on, and when time comes, he's going to jump back in the MCU for a few movies. I predict that. But there's some post-credit scenes, too, that I thought that are really awesome, and you get a full trailer for Doctor Strange 2 at the end of this movie, too, which is probably already online. But for me, didn't know it was out, and I didn't see it until I saw this movie, so I was really pumped up about all that. So for me, not only was it great to see all those villains, but we got the three Spider-Man and we got the Daredevil cameo. Or introduction, really. Well guys, that'll do it for this review. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Once again, go see Spider-Man No Way Home. You're gonna love it. It's a blast. Very well done. Like I said, the best of the three MCU Spider-Man movies by far. And one more thing, guys. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns.
happening?
They're starting to come through.